Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Committee of the Whole meeting of September 27th, 2021. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balstria.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Here.
Mrs. Snyder.
Here.
Mrs. Teresi.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to give us an update from the GPD group and level heads with regard to the aquatic and community project, and to discuss the proposed construction manager at risk. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. First, we just wanted to, extend our condolences to council. Obviously, this is our first time being here since, what happened. So we want to express our condolences there.
Thank you.
When we first started this project, we committed to keeping council up to date on this important project for the city. So, we will be coming regularly to give you updates. We put together 2 presentations today to go through, update you on the solicitation and procurement of the construction manager, and then also give you an update on Chris will give you an update on the design portion. So the first couple of slides that I have here are ones that we previously shared with you, but I figured it'd be good just to kind of refresh everybody again in terms of the CM at risk process. This is really a construction procurement method that is very applicable to a project like this, where it's complex and it's schedule driven. And then with the current climate that we have, the market conditions and supply chain issues, a construction manager at risk becomes very valuable to successfully delivering a project. So that motion was, the council had to approve that on June 28th to advertise the CMRs. And then just to recap, again, the roles of the parties relative to the process. So from an architect and owner's rep side, it's pretty similar in terms of what we're doing, but the CM at risk comes on during that design process, and that's really, I think, one of the most valuable parts that they offer to the process, because they really start to help provide some of that feedback during design, and it's a lot easier than obviously to make changes at that point than after the design's been completed, and then you start soliciting the input from bidders and contractors. So just to go, we wanted to give you, I guess, the process that we took in terms of procuring the construction managers for this project. We followed a format that's very similar to the state's process in terms of soliciting construction managers. So it's a 2-part process. It's based both on qualifications and price. And we call that the best value method, so that we are finding the most qualified construction manager, but at also a very competitive price as well. So there's 4 steps relative to that. We start similar to the AE process. We start with a request for qualifications that is publicly published, and then shortlist that into 4 firms, or I guess shortlist the firms to the most qualified, and then request the technical pricing and proposals. Go through an interview process, and then the last stage is the making a recommendation and doing the contract negotiation. So the first step was publishing that RFQ. We helped develop that with the selection committee, and what we did is we tailored that RFQ to ensure that we're finding construction managers that have obviously plenty of experience with similar type construction with pools and community centers. But we also wanted to find some that brought, local knowledge, that has worked either with the city or has partners that are within the city. And then as part of this process too, we went out and we made sure that all of the reputable construction managers were well aware of this project, so that there was plenty of interest on it. So we got a total of 9 submissions, which was a good turnout, and we got a lot of the qualified firms that are within the area. So just based on qualifications, we then shortlisted that list down to 4 construction managers that the selection committee found that were considered the most qualified. Based upon that, we issued a request for proposal. So that's a technical and pricing proposal that each firm provided us. And that was issued on August 23rd. We actually had a pre-proposal meeting with each of the firms, so we brought each one of them in ahead of the interviews, gave them a background in terms of the project itself, and gave them an opportunity to meet the selection committee and ask questions to really be well prepared for the interview itself. And then as part of this process, we also developed a scoring card that we used, and that again is something that the selection committee had a little bit of ability to drive the ultimate selection process. We could weigh the scoring relative to the pricing or to the qualifications. In this case, we did a 50-50 split so that we found one that was well qualified and came in efficiently from a fee standpoint. So all 4 of those shortlisted firms were interviewed on September 8th. We really kind of wanted them to focus their presentations, and that's what they did on these items here that I listed. An important part of the construction manager is to extend the community outreach and to be good neighbors through this construction process. So we wanted to see that they have done that and demonstrated it on past projects, within a semi-urban site that is adjacent to residents. We asked them to talk about their design assist process, and that's where, with some of the more complex systems such as the aquatics feature, we bring in some of their sub-consultants early on to really assist with some of the selection and equipment portions of the project. We've talked about their procurement for their sub-consultants and how they pre-qualify those to ensure that we've got good sub-consultants on our project. And then one of the important ones here that I'm going to touch on in a little bit too is just talking about our approach with the current market and budget management. Everybody has heard the issues with supply chains and material pricing that's happening, and it's impacting pretty much all trades in different ways and at different times. So trying to react to that is an important piece to this. And then they also touched on their value-added opportunities. So they brought some good ideas already in terms of how they feel like they could potentially save the project some money and streamline the construction process. So following those interviews, we did rank all of the CMRs that, from a qualification standpoint. This is the slide that I was touching on in terms of, the current market conditions that we're seeing, and you can see there's various pieces that are listed there. So again, another reason why having a construction manager on our team is going to be very valuable. So this is the last step of it, which was we populated the scorecard then with the qualification scoring against the price, the fees and the CM fees and their costs of work, and determine then what is the best value for this particular project. We did follow up with the top 2 firms with the references as well, and received great references for both. The scoring was actually very close, but ultimately the selection committee did make a recommendation. And I guess part of this update is that we are working with Mr. Murphy and the law director to put together some contract language so that we can, at our next council meeting, bring forward a motion to have that contract in front of you. So I guess in terms of that first phase, that first portion, are there any questions? Otherwise, I can turn it over to Chris.
Mr. DeJohn.
Do we have this in our packet here? Because I don't have it if it was passed out.
I will certainly make this available to you, but I didn't.
So the next time you come back, just make sure all of us have this so we can look over it.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Are there any other further questions? Mr. Balstrand.
Did you say you narrowed it down to one now from the 4 that you had selected?
Correct, yeah.
And you're at that point now where you're negotiating or working with that one individual. Are you at liberty to say who that is, which firm that is?
I mean, I think we can probably. So the selection committee's or the best values construction manager was A.M. Higley out of Cleveland.
Okay.
Diane, if I could.
Sure.
And we do plan on having the legislation for approval of the first phase of their contract to council at the next meeting. We wanted to bring it back today just to refresh everybody, bring the pointers up so you had some time to digest it in case you had any questions before the meeting.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No fun stuff.
Good evening. We are pleased to advance the project from a programming and planning phase, which is what we've been in sort of in the last month and a half, really trying to figure out what is going in the building, what is the aquatics program, kind of wrestling with all those details. And we're still working with Sean to define those things, because ultimately, we sort of have a menu of program in the building and the aquatic program, and we get the pricing for all of these items and prioritize them. But what we've always said, and I represent to you, is that we're doing a master plan for the site. This is sort of the all-in, here's all we want. And as we ebb and flow with the market and conditions, we want to make sure that we understand the top priorities and make sure that we're addressing all the community needs. And in fact, I think it's October 19th is the date that we're looking at trying to do a session with the community to give them an update for the first time. So we're looking forward to that. So currently this, there's a lot of activity actually happening that's not related to architecture, engineering, and construction management. What we're doing right now, in fact, today, is the start of it. We're doing 3 things. There's going to be site surveying starting soon. So we're getting all the topography assessed, the underground utilities, all that's happening over the next couple weeks. They're actually going to be on site for about a week and a half to validate everything that's happening on that site. Utilities, topography, easements, all of those things. So that's happening. We also have started today at the community center. They're doing the hazardous material assessment and sampling. So before we can tear down that building, we have to make sure we know if there are any hazardous materials in that building, and then abate it. So that's actually has started. Then we're also working on, and this diagram shows it, we are doing geotechnical borings. We're doing subsurface investigation, and that's starting Wednesday. And you currently had, through the GPD's due diligence, there was about 6 locations that they already did borings. But now that we know where the building is, we know where the deepest area for the pools and aquatics are, and all these other details, you see those in red are other locations, we are doing borings, and those are going to start out there very soon. So these three activities are happening, and it's all the information that we're going to use to design the building around. What are the soil conditions? What are the grade conditions for water detention, retention, or drainage? And then, of course, tearing down the community center, what do we need to do that safely? So all of those activities are happening. This is the current site plan, and what really has transpired, the building from a design standpoint, it's really the very similar footprint that you saw the last time. Not a lot of real changes, but from the aquatics deck, we're really trying to integrate the site plan now into the aquatics layout of the major components of the pools and the slide tower and all of that. So we're starting to really understand the details to that plan, how to make it sort of all work together with the building, because it's a very unusual project we're doing where you have this community center adjacent to an aquatic center and all those competing and collaborative relationships. At the top of the plan, you see the playground. What we did enlarge that area. We heard that as feedback that we wanted to make sure that we had ample space for the playground activity. It doesn't mean it's all built out. It means that area is designated from a master plan standpoint to have the playground apparatus right there, right at the front, and the connectivity to the park. And then just below that, and let me see, just below that is the splash pad, which is right connected to it as well. But one thing we did on the site, we were starting to show where handicap parking is, making sure that we get parking that's very adjacent to the front door. We're actually starting to show a bus drop-off area, so if there's school buses or pickup or a special event, that there's a lane that's cross-hatched there, it's labeled bus drop-off, that activity can happen. We're also making sure that from a budget standpoint, just because we can add more parking, that doesn't mean we're going to do the more parking. We're trying to be very frugal with making sure we have what's required for parking, which we still have to vet and validate, but we're right about where GPD and their analysis, where they came up with the parking counts. We're kind of matching that, but every stall we put in is a cost, so we have to be very careful with that. But right now we're maximizing, kind of really identifying where the staff would park, the visitors, and all of that would happen. We're showing, starting to show a lot of details from the standpoint of, where are we going to have shade structures and different components. Where if you look on the diagram in front of you, upper left, if we kind of go clockwise or counterclockwise, we have indicated now J, which is a picnic pavilion. So it's a structure that is permanent, that has picnic tables underneath it. So you could have camps can gather there, or from the concession stand, you can have your lunch or your dinner snacks or whatever in that area. We have multiple umbrellas starting to be located, and I think we're going to need more of those. We need to have enough opportunity to get out of the sun as possible, and that was the highest priority from the community feedback, was to make sure there was ample shade. And then we're starting to show the bottom left is a sunshade pavilion as well, where there's a large sort of octagon canopy that has seating underneath it but it's in underneath a canopy. Where it says O just to the top left of that it's just an idea. We have a raised platform area of seating with grass, and then it has these large steps, kind of like an amphitheater steps to casual seating, but you kind of get a little bit of an elevated platform to look at the diving pool and the deep water pool. That's an idea. We have to get our landscape architect and everyone else involved in this, but we're starting to divide out the site with the landscape, the hardscapes, and all the little features of the site. K, when you go around the corner, keep going around to the aquatics, is a fenced-in area that we talked about, sort of an outdoor living space, living room where you can have a fire pit. You can have people that are in a conference, or the community rooms can go out to the pool deck, and there's landscape and grass, and there's hardscapes, and there's seating and things like that, but they still have to be behind a fenced area and cannot just go right on the pool deck. So we're starting to indicate that as well. And then, of course, the significant pool features. This is a slide you saw the last time. It hasn't changed. The pool really has not changed in its layout, organization. We've turned things a little bit to align with building amenities and shapes. And this was all sort of really soft and rolling sort of landscape features. We're doing this more like this urban setting where you're in between commercial and residential, and it's the mix. So we've kind of taken off some of those softened edges, and really the shape of the building in our site plan now is is those shapes are kind of coming into this. So it's, you know, a little bit more angular, but it still has some soft corners and things like that. And, you know, we'll really study the walking patterns of the visitors and stuff to make sure we have things in the right locations. For example, in the zero depth pool, that large crescent shaped pool, there's a large canopy in the shade structure right there. Well, the lifeguards is number 34. Well, we want to make sure that their view is not blocked because of that shade structure and those apparatus. So we have to really analytically go in now and make sure that all of this on a micro level works. And in fact, Sean has set up a peer review session tomorrow on the aquatics deck with a couple of his colleagues that have experience with this to kind of give a once-over look at this, and we really like that as a part of our process. Of course, this is the giant slide that you've seen before. We still have that with 6 flumes coming down from the top, and 2 of them going into different pools, and the 4 going sort of down the long chute. The floor plan has not really changed much. This is pretty much the plan from last time. We did flip-flop the pump room and the storage room for aquatics so that it's not next to the community rooms. We also have studied, and I'll show this next slide where, you know, one program space that we don't have in the plan is a kind of a cardio space for seniors, and that was something that was important to us as on our program component. So as we evolve the design, we're trying to figure out, well, where would that go, and how would we, of course, keep within the budgets that we have. And one suggestion is that we're looking at is pulling the gym sort of apart, such that the gym, from an economic standpoint, can be its own structural system, pre-engineered building, whatever it is, that's not married right up to the other structure, and those intricate details of that connectivity pulled apart. We have a courtyard in between, but that space can be built out for a very immediate athletic program or fitness program right in that space. So as we go along, you know, we want to try to get as much program into the building, but we have to have a location for it. So we kind of are stretching out that one component with these couple corridors, top and bottom. We're just starting to explore that, so we'll keep sharing with you how that's going. And then we've got into the service yard, where the community center was. We tear that down, and we need to make that into the service yard. And we're exploring, you know, heavy-duty concrete for that entire area, berming and landscape to the left, a 20-foot area that we would raise up, fencing that goes around, keep the leaf and the dirty spoils kind of to the right, to the east, south of this, and then towards the parking lot have the stone areas, have some garbage bins, the leaf trucks, trailers, sort of along that edge. So that's kind of working with the service department. That's the latest plan that we have for that area. And then this is sort of the latest rendition of everything I just went through, how the complex, you know, would look for the facility. You remember the previous renderings. We are going to keep updating these, but you can see all the features we talked about. On the left was that in the blue metal roof is the picnic pavilion with picnic tables underneath it. To the right is that right bottom is the elevated platform looking over the pool deck, and then there's a sunbathing deck with chairs around it, chairs around sort of all of the pool areas. And there's the 4 sunshade umbrellas that wrap around the zero depth entry pool. And just, you know, starting to show that, oh, you can even see at the top of the page, the service center, you can see a 100-foot by 15-foot high pile of leaves that are stored back there, where we have them, you know, on the east side of the site. So we're starting to get those details into the plan to make this very real. Just like back in the loading dock, you see the power pole that's there, that's a 60-foot high tower that has cable structures that come off it, and the easements. We're just getting more reality to our planning as we get more information. And these, I'll just flip through these. These are, you know, you've seen a bunch of these images prior, but, you know, once again, we're waiting for the construction manager to get on board they're going to help certainly advise us of structural systems, materials, things like that fit into our budget or make it come in less. So we're going to get their input, but we still need all this due diligence on the site survey work, the geotechnical borings, all of that stuff to inform us as well. So it's sort of all coming together for October, end of October, to be through a schematic design process on this project. And this is starting to show some of the you know, warmed up materials on the exterior. The bottom left building, that would be the concession building, wrapping around with the lifeguard right in the corner, and the rec department kind of projects out from the building. But we're keeping this a very streamlined building, it's one story the whole way. The gym would certainly pop up in the background, or on the 271 being sort of the flagship of a billboard for the facility for traffic coming down south on 271 that sets up nicely. So just features. I'll just open up to questions.
Does any member, Mr. Balistriero?
Actually, I have a number of them, but I'll just give you a couple. Has there been any discussion with the wetlands area that was in the southern area? I walked the property, and it was hard for me to perceive that as being described as wetlands.
Yeah, we walked it as well when we did our service with the service department. We walked back there and with our engineers, and we all felt like it was just walking through a regular, wooded area with
Right.
hard ground. So no, I think for what we saw, we were very optimistic that that's to our advantage. Number one, we want to try to find a way on this property to not have all the underground detention basins for detention tanks for the stormwater. It's very expensive. If you remember from the budget from a month ago, it was about $700,000 to do that. We'd like to maybe in that wooded area carve some out, and maybe we can drain to that area and have a detention pond, but make it as a feature that from a walking track or walking sidewalk perspective, it's a feature. It's nice. So we are seeing how to take advantage of that. We could do more program back there, but it's starting to get too far back in the plan where safety and security and visibility, it starts to get a little too far back there. So I think from what I just talked about, it would be good to take advantage.
I'm just a little concerned with, picnic type areas. Being a Little League coach for many, many years, one of the biggest concerns was we didn't have enough pavilions over there when we had activities going on. And just to have that one area designated with those picnic tables, I'm thinking, could we have that as an off-site someplace else where people can go, away from the hustle and bustle of an aquatic area and maybe picnic and have time with their families?
That area is multi-purpose, meaning that there are camps that you bring here, the Mayfield Heights camps that come here.
Mm-hmm.
That's an area they would put all their bags, all their belongings. They would have that space instead of being all out on the pool deck, having stuff everywhere. There's a way to keep everything behind a fenced area in a pavilion. So we are looking at those right now with Sean, and these are placeholders, and once again, sort of a master plan such that if we don't want to build it for a reason, we know where, if that decision needs to change, because as you use the facility, you say, hey, we really could use that pavilion with some picnic tables under it. We know exactly where it goes, and it's planned out. It's not an afterthought. So we will really weigh all of those, because the umbrellas, the pavilions, all those nice shade structures cost money, and we are going to itemize every one of them, and we're going to prioritize them, and that's what we'll advance the top priorities and see where the costs go.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Teresi?
Thank you, Council President. Sorry. I have a quick question for Mr. Trottick. Will there be an area like a walking path where if people just want to keep walking around and then jump in the pool, or walk around and then sit
The answer, you mean when they're inside the pool deck?
inside the
Yeah, there's definitely,
facility?
let me go back to that. Bear with me, please.
Looked like there was.
Like as I kind of went counterclockwise, you can walk all along the perimeter around the pool. Now, it's not, well, I shouldn't say it's not. Maybe there ends up being with the pattern of the concrete, the scoring of it, the control joints, the expansion joints. It kind of shows a pathway that maybe meanders upon a more orthogonal plan. There could be some neat things, but you definitely can go around the pool. And one of my concerns is, okay, if you're, let's say you're getting concessions at number 41 at the top, and you want to go to the pavilion, the picnic pavilion, okay, what's that pathway? It gets a little circuitous to get back there. So now we're showing in the rendering, and I know it's hard for you to see it in the image, but we definitely have picnic tables that are right outside the concession, so that there's areas to sit and eat right there. But definitely be able to meander around, and we want to try to get, nice landscaping and some elevation changes on a very flat site to make it interesting as well.
Yeah, I was thinking of, moms maybe putting a child in a stroller and to keep them calm or make them fall asleep and walking, just walking through the facility, different areas. That was kind of my mindset.
Yeah, we will, good thoughts, we will make sure we can achieve that.
And then my other question is for Mrs. Fagan. Do we have any idea what additional cost would be to have that giant slide for insurance purposes? And can we still have a slide like that?
I did contact our insurance carrier just to make sure we weren't going down a path and then having everything come back and say, you can't do that. And he had no concerns with that. He said it definitely would be insurable, and he did not see that cost being cost prohibitive. He did not go out and search on an exact quote for us, but he did not feel it would be cost prohibitive.
Thank you.
There were other options that some of the water engineers brought forward that he was not even aware of, but I don't think we're going down that route, so we're okay.
And then, can I just ask one more question?
Go ahead.
So I was going to just wonder, I guess, with Mr. Ward, what do we do with the groups that have the community building already scheduled? If we're, as we move forward, we're going to tear the community building down. What do we do with all of the groups that currently rent every month in the community building?
Well, so right now with COVID, the community center has been offline for a number of months. So they are just starting to now come back, and there are just a few of them that are doing that. So we've already notified them that this is something that's going to happen in the first quarter of 2022. And so we're not taking any money for 2022. We'll work with them as long as we can. There are a number of organizations that have not come back just because they're still apprehensive at this point. So we'll just have to play it by ear, but they're all kind of have an understanding of what is kind of before us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mis-
If anybody else.
Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. Couple things. First of all, as I said in the last time we met with you, I'm not in favor of a flat roof. Is there anything we can change?
Well, I think, none of our roofs are gonna be flat. They're all sloped, either they're gabled in the center and sloped to the outside, to the perimeter, which would have drains and overflow drains as well. The gymnasium roof, depending on the design, it might shed from, it might have a uniform parapet, the top portion, but then the roof itself is gonna shed to one side or the other. But we're looking forward to the construction manager getting on board once again, so the means and method of construction, the materials, everything that we do here, that we vet that together and get the best systems. So no, we're not gonna have flat roofs from the definition that it's sort of a fish or a bathtub sitting up there with drains in the center. We're really gonna try to get the sloping form. We may have some roofs that truly have a, like the back right building, you can kind of see it to the bottom of where the truck and the service dock, maybe a little maintenance building. It just has a shed roof at the top, a metal deck shed roof. We may have some more of that as we go. We might find that that's more economic to do a metal deck roof, a metal sloped roof, than having a flat roof with the parapets. I don't know yet, so I think that's what we'll get to, but we'll take care of you with that.
So my other question, let's say the way this looks now, it's going to be $22 million, and we don't have the money for it. Is there some type of rating system that you're going to use to start cutting things out of this project, and who will decide that?
Well, what we like to do is work in a contiguous, consecutive fashion where we don't backtrack with value engineering, which is about taking things out or lessening something to get it to fit in budget. What we're going to do with the construction managers, and I was part of the process with GPD, asking them all kinds of questions about how do we avoid backtracking and going over budget. And what they mentioned was having these design assist partners where they bring the trade partners, whether it's a mechanical subcontractor or it's an aquatics pool builder. We want them there early, so we're weighing the facts of, do we do a stainless steel pool perimeter, or do we do shotcrete? What is the industry? And then we're going design that direction. Do we do these flatter roofs that are sloped, or do we want to do a shed roof with metal deck? What's the pricing? They'll run through the pricing for us on the options, so just in time, we can be looking at the options and going those directions. So all along the way, we're going to have options that we're going to review. We can share with you certainly the process we went through, and we'll document that to say, hey, we looked at these different things, and we went these directions for these reasons. But there's nothing worse than we'd want than to have to backtrack design, subtract things, and miss your expectations. So we're going to take the time to do that process. And the construction manager is key in this, and we went through a process to get that right company on board.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mano, do you have anything? And Mrs. Sabetta? No, thank you. Okay. Mr. Balistreo?
Thank you. Was there any proposal I didn't notice, and I could be wrong, for any kind of a locker room around the gymnasium, male and female changing for any events that might, require changing into, gym attire or something like that?
We have right immediate outside of the locker, or the gym areas, we have, it's number 6 on the diagram, if you can see it, right to the left of the court. I'll go to the previous one.
And what is that?
Those are restrooms, okay? And then we're gonna, just like at the aquatics deck, we're gonna have those little cubbies, if you will, with the lock that you can put your belongings in, lockers that you will, that are outside. But right now, there's not a specific, most of the people come in their clothes, but if they need to change, the bathrooms are right there, and you can go into a stall. If we need to provide some changing rooms, we have room to do that in here.
We have room to do
Maybe
that.
that's something that we should, just like at the aquatic side, in those restrooms, we have changing rooms there. Maybe we need to add some here.
And the last time we had discussion about the actual gym floor, and what if it was used for a large event, let's say a dance or a large wedding or something like that, and there was concern about the tables and chairs on that type of thing. At my particular church, we did that with we call it our multi-purpose room, our gym, and we laid down carpet. It's a multi-purpose carpet it's been there for 40-some years, and it hasn't shown any worn. Where you played basketball and everything on the actual carpeting, and easier to clean, and didn't have to worry about, planking and wood, and was a lot less expensive. But I was just wondering if there's any thought given to something like that, since we had talked about using that as an overflow or a multi-purpose type area.
Yeah, I think since the last time we talked, we haven't advanced that part of the conversation
Okay.
yet. But I think, we will have to figure out how to address that. Or, as we mentioned, the way this would be scheduled, as an overflow or something, you have to have some kind of floor protection, I think would be wise.
Right.
But, and I think I mentioned this last time, with these maple floors, every 2 to 3 years, they refinish them anyhow, because they just, through the wear and tear of the activities on the floors, they need to be done. But I'm anxious, like you are, to see how we're gonna, resolve that.
Right.
We're just not there yet.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question for you. I'm still not real, I guess I'm concerned about the public bathrooms being attached to the gymnasium and also being attached to the rooms that we're renting out for events or functions. On 8, 9, and 10, those areas, can that be the other side of a bathroom for that other area? So that's separate from the gymnasium?
Well, if you remember in our conversation, we've gone back and forth on this. One was that you enter the 6s, that's men's and women's, if you will, from both sides, and there's a wall in between, so you do have a separation. Or for the ebb and flow of how many individuals may be in the community side of the building, or there's something going on, you want to have the capacity, and maybe you unlock a door and open it up that's between, so that you could go in between for a certain thing. I don't know how we're going to deal with that yet, but the goal was to try to make it as, try to come up with an economic solution to not have to repeat as many hand wash, sinks and different things, and really have it, it's kind of multi-purpose use. But I don't know, we really haven't bantered whether that was, wise or not with the who's using the gym versus, and the comment was that you're not going to have a wedding going on or a reception in the community rooms and have some big basketball activity happening. So there's that. You would schedule it such that you don't have that commingling in a way that would be disruptive to each was a conversation. Whether that's valid or not, we have to explore that. But what I'm hearing from you is maybe some separation would be, we'll study that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It is now almost 7:15. We're going to close this committee of the whole meeting, and we will start up our regular council meeting in 5 minutes. Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to the council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balstria,
Present.
Mr. DeJohn,
Here.
Mr. Mano,
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Here.
Mrs. Snyder,
Here.
Mrs. Teresi.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the approval of the minutes from the council meeting of September 27th. I hope everyone has had time to read these minutes over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Tressi. Are there any suggested changes, amendments, or deletions to those minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nay? These minutes have been approved as written. This time, does any member of council have any correspondence or announcements? Okay, we will move to reports of officers. The mayor is not with us this evening, so we will move to Law Director, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening, but I would request an executive session at the end of regular business to discuss pending or imminent litigation and appointment of a public official.
Okay, we'll do that after the meeting. Okay, Director of Finance, Mrs. Fagan.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, most of the property owners should have gotten their notice from the county on their triennial reevaluation from the county. The average for residential properties in the city went up about 14%. So if you have any questions on that, the best thing to do is to reach out to the county, to the fiscal officer's office, and they would be able to answer those questions for you. They also have some meetings coming up on October 13th and 14th in our area, and I'll make sure that information gets posted on the website for everyone.
Thank you, Mrs. Fagan. Any questions for Mrs. Fagan? Next, we'll move to our agenda, reports of committees, commissions, and boards, starting with the Building Committee. Mrs. Tressi.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Finance and Audit Committee, Mr. Balstria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A finance meeting is scheduled for this Friday, October 1st at 8 a.m. All is welcome. Ordinance 2021-32 should be placed on second reading this evening and discussed at the next council meeting after the Finance Committee has time to review it in committee.
Thank you,
And it's
Mr.
very
Balstria.
important.
Legislative Committee, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report.
Thank you. Public Works and Service, Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Gerson is in the process of scheduling a meeting with the Ascot and Marnell residents the week of October 11th through the 15th. One of those days will be scheduled, and it will take place after 6:30 p.m. And he's also busy trying to develop a pilot program, and that will be discussed at that meeting. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. DeJohn. Are there any questions? Recreation and Parks Committee, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Registration is still open for the following youth programs: LBJ basketball for boys and girls in grades K1, for boys 2nd, 3rd, for girls 2 to 4th. Cost is $70 per participant. Little Spikers volleyball for ages 5 to 7 years and 8 to 12 years. The cost is $75 per participant. For our senior 60-plus, we are starting up our drive-up dinners again. Our next dinner will be on October the 12th, featuring K-Station Catering. The menu is kielbasa with sauerkraut, 2 pierogi, green beans, and dessert for $5. Please call or to make reservations. For more information on these programs, please contact the Recreation Department at 440-442-2627 or visit the website at www.mayfieldheights.org. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Are there any questions for Mr. Mano? Safety and Transportation, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. There has been no meeting, but Resolution 2021-80 is on the agenda. Council can address it when it comes forth. Chief Elliott is present for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Zoning Appeals, Mrs. Sabetta.
Again, thank you, Madam President. The BZA met on September 14th. Council has the meeting minutes. There are 3 items on the agenda tonight that council can address when they come forth. I encourage all applicants to address council during the public portion of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Planning Commission, Mr. Balestrea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Planning Commission met last Monday, September the 20th. There's 1 resolution and 2 motions on the agenda this evening, and I, again, would encourage those folks who were at the Planning Commission to speak during the public portion, as I was absent, as well as the mayor, to best describe your intentions to this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balestrea. Are there any questions? Okay. It is now time for comments from the public. We will now proceed pursuant to our city code. Each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. If you are here in connection with an agenda item this evening, this is your opportunity to address council. If you would like to be heard, please raise your hand and be recognized. Approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. It is now 7:27. Forward.
Tom Molchan, with 1966 Reedsboro Trail, Westlake, Ohio. I'm here in connection with the resolution we have to extend the variances on the self-storage facility at 413 Golden Gate. We're trying to get the building up, and we just have to be sure that the variances aren't going to expire, because they're currently set to expire. That works much better.
Thank you.
They're currently set to expire in the middle of October. So we just want to be able to go through without having to go through the whole variance process again and slow everything down.
Perfect.
I'll be here for the whole meeting if people have questions later.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moulton. Is there anyone else that like to be heard? Yeah, come forward, please.
Am I able to use the camera?
Sure.
Oh, no, you don't have to disconnect. I'm just gonna use this, 'cause I don't have this. Okay, so. My name's Erin Ledbetter. I'm a development coordinator with Olio Development Group. I'm here to speak on 2 of the variances that we presented to the BZA, like Ms. Sabetta mentioned. So the first variance that we asked for was a sign that's going to be on top of our canopy, and I can show you a picture of it in just 1 second. Basically, when we pushed our building up to the road and created a pretty large canopy,
Hold on 1 second. Can you move that piece of paper?
yeah.
Oh. That's fine. Thank you.
Oh, no, I just need the camera. I'm sorry.
Oh, she can't put that thing.
Okay, perfect. Move my microphone over. Okay. So. Basically, the reason that we had to seek a variance for this One Love sign is because it was considered a parapet sign. And because it extends above a roof line, or what is considered a roof line in the zoning code. As you can see, the One Love sign is just going to be on the canopy. It's not going to extend above the roof. And it's actually going to be a lot smaller than the one in the pictures. The pictures are actually from a store that we just finished in Cincinnati. But the elevation that you see in the bottom left-hand corner, that's the actual elevation for this location. So as you can see, it's a lot smaller. We reduced it significantly in size. As you can tell by the pictures, our canopy is lit. We have lights that we string on the underside, and that One Love is, I don't think it'll be lit in this location, but it kind of just adds to the ambience and the feel of the canopy. So that was the first variance we requested. The second variance we requested was for a painted sign. Painted signs are prohibited in this city. So as you can see, I know one major concern of the BZA was the paint chipping or not being kept up. And I actually went and took these pictures of this particular sign that says Raising Cane Chicken Fingers in Columbus. This is our oldest store in the Columbus area. It's 15 years old, and this is what it looks like as of last week. So I just kind of wanted to bring up the point that corporate has a schedule that they keep up where they go and touch up these signs on a regular basis, but there's also a grading system in place where each store gets graded every single year, and the condition of their signs is a huge aspect of that grading scale. And so if the painted sign is not an option, which actually that One Love, this heart that has the dog, the fish, the number one, and the hard hat, that is what we're asking for in this instance. So that heart would actually be a metal piece. It would just be the red portion behind it that would be painted in this instance. That's what we asked for in the variance. We do have another option that I just wanted to show council this evening. So this, we don't use these often, but we do in some cases. This is actually all metal. So the red background is metal as well as the One Love heart. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, the entire sign is metal, and the words are just printed on the metal piece. And so we asked for the variance, the mural, the painted sign in the rear, because when we rotated our building and pushed it up to the road in conjunction with what the city and ABR wanted, we were left with this huge 100-foot facade in the rear of the building, and we are only allowed 24 square feet of signage, which is obviously not enough for that big of a facade. We also put all of our parking in the back, so really we have no visibility in the back of the restaurant, which is why we would like to have the mural in the back as kind of our touch to the rear of the building. And that is really all I have, and I will be happy to answer any questions when the time comes.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, sir. What was her name?
Apologize. Members of Town Council, good afternoon, good evening. Jim Herney with Anchor Sign. This is Collins Corbett with Anchor Sign. We're based in Charleston, South Carolina. But before you judge us for that, let us know that we love everybody in Ohio that comes to Charleston, South Carolina. And we've had a great time being from Charleston here, so thank you for hosting us. And we brought donuts, not in any other way than to show you what will be less than 26 miles away next year. It'll be right here across the street, hopefully. So there are donuts. If you're interested afterward. Want to thank you for the opportunity. Krispy Kreme was here for the Board of Zoning Appeals. I have to say, Councilmember Sabetta was unbelievably helpful in helping us understand signage in the local township, how it's viewed, the historical process to it. So has allowed us the opportunity to come before you and discuss what happened and where we're going forward. As you can see, this is the building almost directly across the street from you all. It will be going away, and Krispy Kreme will be putting one of its brand new type stores in this location. And what we're asking for, and the point of this
meeting is that we're looking for a 54-inch wall sign, which is about 56 square feet, on the main entrance to our building. That's one of the things I neglected to discuss in the Board of Zoning Appeals, that this is the main entrance to the building on the side elevation, and it's also right in the middle of where cars enter for the drive-through. So unfortunately, it was a tie vote. It was a great discussion, and we learned a lot from it. And in front of you is a copy of the signage that is in discussion. As you can see, this side elevation is the east side of the building, and that is, again, the main entrance to the Krispy Kreme building. I've got it blown up here a little bit more, and Collins Corbett, who's, again, our National Account Manager, can answer. I think Councilman Sabetta made some very good points about the neighborhood that is there and what lighting does and how it looks. And so if there are questions upon that, Collins can answer that. But one of the things, just this traffic pattern, is we wanted to sort of be helpful as new members of the community. We're coming in, and as this strip of roadway here is a very active roadway. This roadway goes from 4 lanes down to 2, lots of moving parts, and as you enter into our entrance, this is where the giant food store is there, as soon as you enter into the roadway, an immediate right is needed for the drive-through. So you're going to enter, and we have the site plan here we can show you, but as you enter, you need an immediate right to enter into the drive-through. If not, you have to go back around and loop through the parking lot to come around. And so it's important for us to get traffic moving to the right as they enter into this drive area and preparing to head into the Krispy Kreme parking lot. What we don't want to have happen is be a good neighbor that comes in, puts in a store. Everybody loves donuts. We're not worried about customers coming to our location, but we worry about traffic trying to merge in last minute. So if we can show, and this is one of the pictures that we have here, and again, this is the sight line right here. You can see the Huntington Bank, the T-Mobile. You can see the proposed store. We've moved it forward. We're moving the store 50 feet closer to the roadway than what's there now. You can see the illumination of that sign during the daytime. It'll help move traffic, we believe, to the far right lanes to make that right-hand turn as you go from 3 down to 2. This is another example. This was taken a year ago, this picture. You can see with the leaves off the tree, you get a little bit better imagery during the daytime. Again, the goal for us is to get traffic entering in and not having to make a quick turn to the right or a quick movement to the right with cars beginning to line up as they enter into the parking lot. So the quicker we can show the store on that side elevation, the more time we'll give drivers safety to get into that far lane instead of having to make a last-minute turn to the right. Again, it's not a hardship in terms of can people find our store. We think people can. We think the donuts are great. People will know where it is. But what's important for us is as traffic begins to stack as they head down that road, we're worried that trucks or cars won't see it until too late and move over into the right lane, causing issues. We've talked to fire. We've talked to police. We've talked to the businesses now along the roadway. I think folks will tell you that this is, as you all know, more than anybody else, this is a heavily trafficked road. And the safer we can make it by giving advanced notification for drivers would be great. And again, that was our ask. I think we didn't do a good enough job. Councilman Sabetta made a very great understanding of how the signage can work, where can it be seen, can it not be seen. It really helped us go back and look at the model. So we're pleased to be here. Again, we'll answer any questions should you have it, but we definitely wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. And I've got the site plan here, which shows the drive-through, and I'll leave it at the front so you guys can see that as well. That'll be helpful. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you for the donuts, too.
There's laser on the left, on the right, my right, and the sorter on the left.
It helped with executive session.
Oh, yeah.
It might not come out.
Yeah.
We're going to hold the donuts hot.
Yeah.
Don't go until we come
Until we come out, right. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to be heard this evening? Come forward, please. Thank you.
My name is Mike Ackman, work for Donald G. Boning and Associates. We're representing the Cleveland Clinic and the lot consolidation they're looking to do across from Oakhouse Hospital. It's the existing parking lot, the old car dealership, where the helipad is. They're just looking to consolidate their properties into one. Are there any questions? Happy to answer them. We already had this approved at Planning Commission last week.
Okay, thank you. right, is there anyone else that would like to be heard this evening? All right. It is 7:40. I will close the public portion, and we will move to resolutions, beginning with Resolution 2021-71. I will tell all members of council that this applicant has withdrawn her contract, so we can probably just move in favor of voting it down, okay? Mr. Murphy.
Resolution 2021-71, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Marquee Showcase Productions, 737 Spofford Oval, Sagamore Hills, Ohio, 44067, to create, set up, and manage a youth theater program in the city and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Valstrea, second by Mr. DeJohn. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Balstria.
Yes?
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, second by Mrs. Tressi. So the applicant has withdrawn. Any questions?
We'll need to vote it down.
Right, I'm ready to do that next.
I would just
Roll
like to clarify with Mr. Ward that the applicant has indeed withdrawn their request.
Yeah, I spoke to him yesterday, and
Okay, well, I wanted to hear it from staff.
Yes, the applicant has withdrawn the request, yes, correct.
Okay.
thank you. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn.
No.
Mrs. Teresi.
No.
Mr. Balstria.
No?
Mr. Mano.
No.
Mrs. Sabetta.
No.
Mrs. Snyder.
No, the resolution has not been adopted. Resolution number 2021-74, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2021-74, a resolution expressing commendation and sincere appreciation to Donna R. Finney for service rendered for and on behalf of the citizens of the city of Mayfield Heights, Ohio, as a member of City Council and as an outstanding resident of the city of Mayfield Heights. First reading.
At this time, I need a motion to place this on first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Belstria, second by Mrs. Tressi. Roll call on the motion.
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Balstria.
Yes?
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this motion has been placed on first reading. Resolution 2021-75, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2021-75, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to Aaron Ledbetter, Oleo Development Group, on behalf of Raising Cane's and First Mayland Properties, 5880 Mayfield Road, a variance to permit signage above the parapet wall on the north elevation, formerly Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 861-28-045, Parcel L, now known as 861-28-047. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Teresi. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Balstria.
Yes?
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Belstria, second by Mrs. Tressi. We heard from Aaron Ledbetter this evening. We're copied the minutes from the BZA. This was a 4-0 vote, and it would pose a practical difficulty. Mrs. Sabetta, would you like to go over any of this from the meeting?
Thank you. The board saw the practical difficulty in the sight line vision due to setting the sign on the wall. Bringing it forward would increase the visibility of the business tagline. It was a unanimous vote to recommend. 4 members were present. Starbucks is in use of the same concept. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for the applicant or Mrs. Sabetta? All right, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balstraya,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. This resolution has been adopted. Moving to resolution number 2021-76, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2021-76, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in denying to Aaron Ledbetter, Oleo Development Group, on behalf of Raising Cane's and First Mayland Properties, 5880 Mayfield Road, a variance to permit a painted sign on the south elevation of the building, formerly Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 861-28-045, Parcel L, now known as 861-28-047. First reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Tressi, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balstraya,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Belstraya, second by Mrs. Tressi. This was a denial by the BZA with a vote of 0 to 4. The applicant failed to provide the practical difficulty for having this painted sign. Is there anything further you would like to add from the meeting?
Yes, the board did not see the practical difficulty to permit a painted sign on the south elevation wall where there would be another signage placed. Ordinance 1191.14, it's a prohibit and exempt signs. This was a unanimous vote to deny. 4 members were present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Roll call. Oh, Mrs. Tressi, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mrs. Sabetta, did they give any thought to the metal sign that Ms. Ledbetter spoke about?
That was not presented.
Okay. Come forward, please. Aaron.
We not have the opportunity to present the metal sign because it was not presented to me as an option at the time. And we would love to come back to the BZA and present that as an option and get the variance for, if deemed so. Obviously, the painted sign is our first option, but yeah, I was not aware that a metal sign was an option, so that's definitely something we would look into.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any further questions? Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balstraya.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes?
Mrs. Teresi,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Okay, this has been adopted. Resolution number 2021-77, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2021-77, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in denying to Collins Corbett, Anchor Sign, Inc., on behalf of Krispy Kreme and Colony Square of Mayfield Heights Limited, 6261 Mayfield Road, a variance to install a 56.91 square foot sign on the east elevation of the building. Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 862-01-084. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mr. DeJohn. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi,
Yes.
Mr. Balstraya,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mrs. Teresi, second by Mr. Belstraya. You also heard from the applicant this evening. Mrs. Sabetta, would you like to go over this with us?
Yes, thank you. In proposing a 56 lit sign where a 24 square foot sign is permitted on the east elevation facing residential area, using Mayfield Road and its merge lane as a visibility difficulty. The sign at 56 square feet will be an estimate of 20 feet back from the corner of the building on the east elevation. Looking at the sight line of Mayfield Road, the line of vision would be blocked by Huntington building, and mature trees. Residents will be affected by the lit larger light. It was a 2-2 vote, so the recommendation failed. 4 members were present. I would like to ask the gentleman to show council what you showed BZA, the original.
One second to find it, and I will pull it up. I'm so sorry, Madam Chair. Let me give you 1 second to find it. I'm sure I can pull it quickly. I edited it this morning, and I think I just moved it in a different direction. So let's just put by kind, keynote. Right here. I believe this is the slide. I think
That is it.
that's the slide, yes. And that is the original photo, correct. And we listened to the comments and went back and took that building and put in where the new setback would be a digital image of the store. But you're correct, that's exactly the image that we showed during the presentation.
So as you can see, 20 feet back, even though the building is forward, is covered by Huntington. And we're talking about a 480-foot. So 2 members felt we could not see the sign. So to double the sign and highlight Orchard Heights residents, we couldn't see the practical difficulty there.
Would you all like to see the other image?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Because remember, the building's coming forward significantly.
It's the neck,
And this is the image with the building
back where the sign is.
coming forward.
Okay. Well, they-
So we did not do a very good job. In fairness to Councilmember Spita, we did not give her a view appropriate to make to make a decision. So we went back to the wheel and we recreated the image. We went to the sight line. We went to the building, how it's moving forward. It's moving forward just a little bit over 50 feet. Positioned it digitally using Google Maps, and that is the image. And then again, that's with the full set of trees, leaves, although I just went out today, those leaves are not quite like that. And that's from November of 2020, that same sight line. But to the councilwoman's point, yes, we did not show that image. And Collins, if it helps, I think sometimes signage is it's an interesting industry, and people see signs all over the place. This issue of the neighborhood is a great point. I would like to have Collins Corbett, who's our national account manager, just answer that question about the neighborhood and show how our plan is to prevent the displaying of the neighborhood.
So in the past 5 years, Krispy Kreme has redeveloped their entire program to be more of a neighborhood-friendly building. They want people to come in, sit, stay, not just grab and go like your standard to-go restaurants. So they've developed all their LEDs and all their signs now to be more neighborhood-friendly. It's not this super bright white LEDs that you see above your head now. It's more of a warm white LED that's physically pushing through a white diffused Lexan face, which takes the intensity of the light down even more, with an additional set of red acrylic on the face, which brings that intensity down even more for where the letters are. So it's not a bright LED light flashing forward at you. It's a muted, inviting light that's a warm beacon of light to the neighborhood.
Can I ask a question? Is the building actually that big? Because I've been to Krispy Kremes before, and it doesn't look like that.
Sure, that's a great point. So that, the building height is going to be similar to the existing building, but in a previous presentation, I wanted to show you, Krispy Kreme looks nothing, for example, where these donuts came from is an old bank. It's not one of the staples of the Krispy Kreme portfolio. I don't think they would claim that as the best in their rotation. That's what a lot of them have looked like previously.
Right.
That's what they look like now. You can see the look, you can see the outside seating, you can see how we've got the bow tie on the top. Again, you can see the awnings, minimal penetration points to the building. We've helped them reduce that kind of push into the building where you'd see 17 or 18 buckles sitting across the building. We've made it more glass. The goal is to make it as a walkable community. So as you come across the street from the neighborhood, you see it, it's open, you can go in. And the other thing I will tell you is this is another perfect example. You see these previously all across America. You see these now. Those are all LEDs. They're all sustainable. They are a 7-year warranty. They can run 365 days of the year if you need to. Those are the hot lights. They are now moving from all neon to LED. So that look, that what you're familiar with, the old Krispy Kreme is now going away. And it really looks to that side point.
Mr. DeJohn?
So, was it the size of the sign? Okay, light was an issue, but was it also the size? And what about, was it because it was on the side of the building that it was also denied by 2 members?
Yes.
But I've seen signs on side of buildings, if, I think, is Dunkin' Donuts or the bank, Mr. Jameson, can you answer that? I've seen signs on sides of buildings here in Mayfield Heights, so.
They're bigger.
So you can't have them on the side of the building? So it was the size that, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
if you look on your screen, you see letter I. This is the W2 sign. The interesting thing, we talk about the side of the building. This is actually the front entrance of the building. Yes, the side of the building. That's not true. For customers, I'm sorry, for customers. My apologies, for customers. Right.
It's a W2 side sign. The max is 24 square feet.
It's not the front elevation, but it is the main entrance to the building. The front elevation that faces Mayfield Road, as he showed in the earlier photo with the patio and all that, that's where we're trying to draw people in to stay, spend time in their community. That's the patio area that's right there that comes out. The main entrance where people would park and go into the restaurant is where that sign is on that side of the road.
And I'll just draw your attention to the site plan. There's one accompanying, and I can pull it up as well. As soon as you turn into the parking lot, you have to make an immediate right to turn into the drive. And you may not have it in front of you. Let me pull that up real quick. We just want to make sure that we're showing everybody what that looks like. As folks come into the parking lot, just give me a second. It's right here. So as you can see here, as cars enter in from Mayfield Road, they will turn in here to the right, and that you'll realize this is the monument that's there now with Giant Eagle right there. You're going to have to you'll make an immediate right turn here to get into the drive-through. You can see there's an exit of the drive-through right here, and then you can park back here, but it's a one-way point to get in here. So you're going to have a lot of cars that come in quickly, I'm afraid, and then want to have to turn in. There could be some traffic issues here, and we just want to make sure folks have enough time to prepare to get into that far lane, turn in, and then move into this lane to either go into the drive-through or to park and then enter that customer entrance side of the building.
I don't know what the sign is.
Mrs. Tressi?
So just so I'm clear, the sign that you're looking to put on the side of your building is on the east side of the building, am I correct? Facing east?
Yes, you are correct.
And on the west side of this building, is there a sign?
There is not a sign. There is just an inside the store hot light.
There
Correct.
is a 24 square foot hot light on the exterior of the building for cars coming towards the interstate.
Going east.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's really, basically, you're not interfering with any of the residents on Orchard Heights, because that Orchard Heights is on the other side of the vitamin shop, I think. Am I correct?
Yes.
So there is no sign on the west side of the building that would interfere with anyone on Orchard Heights.
The west elevation is right in front, it should be on your screen. Stan.
Okay, maybe I gave the wrong
Thank you.
street, but there are residents that back up behind Huntington. Yes,
In the
there are
apartments?
residents.
Oh, in the
behind.
apartments?
Yes.
Oh, not Orchard Heights, okay.
Right,
I
I'm
was
sorry,
trying
I-
to figure out
yes. Yeah.
if there was a sign on the west side of the building.
too.
And, yeah, and Orchard Heights is
residents were
down.
called.
Okay. Mr. Mano?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, you're only going to be one of two entities in that whole parking area. It's just you and Giant Eagle. I think you need to adhere to the ordinance that we have with the 24 square foot signage. The adage, if you build it, they will come, will apply to you. I've had numerous phone calls over the last months from people wanting to know if you were still coming and when you were going to open. So bear in mind, Fridays existed for years behind Golden Gate Shopping Center with no signage, and they did very, very well. It was one of their highest producing stores. So I think you're going to be fine there. Once people know that you're there, the word will spread, and you should have no problem drawing customers into that store. So I think you need to conform to our code. Thank you.
Mr. Balestria?
I think the applicant makes a valid argument, as far as I'm concerned, only because of the traffic pattern and how that street narrows down immediately. And we had the same discussions with the quick turn-in on the planning commission, when we approved the plans, that it may be problematic. So I can see folks, you know, at least initially, that may have some difficulty pulling in and then having an immediate turn right. So I would be in favor of allowing the sign to be put up, as long as, you know, you're assuring me that that's the site. You know, that you've moved the building up, as you stated, and that people would be able to see it.
Yes, sir. That is our commitment to you today. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mrs. Tracy?
Why did you move the building up? And I understand what the setback is, and I understand the corridor plan. We can't ever forget that. But you've moved it up, and now your drive-through is so close to the road. We'll probably have stacking on Mayfield Road, just like we have with McDonald's. And even though McDonald's was approved for another menu board, we still have stacking of 6, 7, 8, 9 cars in the street. Are we going to have the same thing here with Krispy Kreme?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I would. Why did we move the building forward? The building moved forward due to setback requirements from the city. I can't.
Diane?
Mr. Jameson?
Use the microphone.
There we go. You hear me now? It went to planning commission preliminarily and final, and stacking was accounted for. You're not going to have the situation you do at McDonald's at Krispy Kreme. The way McDonald's is now, it's not going to be.
Wow. Mr.
And
Balestria?
planning commission and council previously felt that way as well.
Right. If you could put up the site plan again, I'll just say what the planning commission viewed. Because it wrapped around, the stacking wrapped around the building, the planning commission didn't feel that there would be that many cars that would possibly would be pouring out onto Mayfield Road. You could see there's a number of cars that could be on the site going through the drive-through.
Right.
And we also had the traffic study done that didn't feel that that was going to be an issue as well. So just so the council's aware of that.
And Councilman, I would argue that we are in line with what is the Planning Commission and others came forward with. Again, the goal is, to your point, sir, we're going to get customers. This isn't one where we need folks to find Krispy Kreme. They'll find Krispy Kreme. What we don't want to do is come in the neighborhood and cause a massive traffic buildup, accidents. Our belief is to be, this sign will help identify it quicker, sooner, and that was our whole plan. It's not about trying to attract customers to Krispy Kreme, I promise
There's
you.
absolutely nothing you could do to make traffic worse on Mayfield Road. Nothing. It's already as bad as it can ever be.
You're not saying Krispy Kreme is going to, us coming is going to make it worse, is that?
That's,
Understood.
I say you can never make it any worse.
well,
I'll take it.
I agree with Councilman Mano, and also, you know, there's a lot of situations where stores would love to have that size of a sign on the side of their building, and it just, so are we gonna allow that as a common practice? It doesn't work.
So I have a question for the applicant. Is a smaller sign of that same, was that ever discussed?
It was not, but we just had this conversation. If 54, and actually I will say, Councilmember Sabetta made this point, 54 on the side is the same as 54 on the front. That was a very good point you made about the building. There's a 48-inch available to Krispy Kreme, and there's a 42-inch available. So it reduces that square footage. So we're not wedded to 54. If town council says, look, I don't think 54 is the right because it's the same as the front, if we need to go to a 48, which is available to the design spec book, if we needs to go to a 42, I don't know that those are effective, but what we don't want to do is hamstring town council to say, look, 54 seems too much. We think it'll work. We think the design works. We think it helps. But we're willing to go, we could go to a 48. Is that the next level down?
48 would be the next level down.
48's available. But at some point, the difference between 54 and 48 is, it's not as significant as it seems. It is significant, but if the idea is safety, then we think the 54 works. But we're willing to look at a 48 if that would help as well. Again, something on that side more than the 24 just helps in the traffic flow.
Mrs. Sabetta, did that come up at the meeting about the size of it as well, if it were smaller?
24 was what came up, sticking to the ordinance at 24 on the side of a building. The merging, the GPS, it's all in the minutes. It came
Right.
up. We had a long discussion, just as
Miss-
we are having now.
Thank
And he
you.
has changed the platform that he did show. That's why I asked for the original. We don't think anyone's going to miss Krispy Kreme. You know,
Okay. Mr. DeJohn?
And a 24 can't help you out?
Think about the size of that, just kind of.
With the shape of the bow tie, how it is now, it would be, you'd have to scale it down, so 24 would give you literally 11 inches tall by 8 feet almost. So, 10 feet, you wouldn't be, you'd be 12, 14 inches tall, which would scale the letters down to be 6 to 8 inches. It would be, negligible, you wouldn't see it coming anywhere.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, no, thank you. So you realize it would take you majority vote to overturn that, right? Super majority, right?
You need 5 to overturn the BZA's.
Super majority.
Oh, Mr.
Actually, what is before council now is what their original request was for the square footage. What was it, 54, 56, whatever it was? That's what BZA voted on. If they wanted to reduce that, they could make a resubmittal, and it would take additional legislation to, basically it would be to reverse BZA and grant the variance based on what their additional submittal would be. So right now, the only thing before council is whether or not to confirm the denial by BZA.
Could you still move to table it if they want?
And what you could do if you wanted to give the applicant an opportunity for another bite at the apple, so to speak, is just table it right now, and then they will come back with perhaps another submission.
I was thinking about that till I tasted the donuts table.
Don't say that, don't say that. Donuts have nothing to do with it.
Mr. Belstria.
Yeah, and this was a split vote by the BZA, so obviously two members of the BZA saw a practical difficulty as well. So there is a difference of opinion, as well as I see there's a difference of opinion here.
Right, I
So-
think I'll move to table. Is there a motion? You don't?
No.
Okay. Any further questions? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Teresi,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes?
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Balstria,
No.
Mrs. Snyder.
No. It's a 4-2 vote, so this motion has been approved. Okay, resolution number 2021-78. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2021-78, a resolution extending the variances from the codified ordinances granted to Fairchild Management Company at 1413 Golden Gate Boulevard, Mayfield Heights, Ohio, Cuyahoga County, permanent parcel numbers 862-06-050, 862-06-071, 862-06-072, and 862-06-073, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second
Second?
by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Balstria,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi,
Abstain.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balstria,
Second?
second by Mrs. Sabetta. This applicant has been before us in the past, and we have granted him 5 variances that will expire. He is asking for additional time so that he can move forward with this project. Due to the pandemic and other issues, he is requesting this additional time. And if you recall from the last council meeting, we passed legislation to give applicants additional time for projects, but this legislation won't take place for 30 days. So, is there any further questions or comments? Roll call on the motion to, Mr. DeJohn, should have known. Sorry.
No, just a comment. So I have voted against this project all along, so I'll have to vote no. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further questions? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn,
No.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balstria.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi,
Abstain.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. This motion has been approved.
With the caveat that there are only 4 votes, so it was not passed as an emergency. So it's going to be effective in 30 days.
Thank you. Okay, resolution number 2021-79, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2021-79, a resolution approving a lot consolidation of Cuyahoga County permanent parcel numbers 862-29-007, 862-29-010, and 862-29-001, 6777, 6801, and 6803 Mayfield Road, so as to create one parcel. First reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano,
Second?
second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balstria,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Teresi, second by Mrs. Sabetta. We all heard from the applicant this evening. This is a consolidation of 3 separate parcels located across from Hillcrest Hospital, known as the 2 medical buildings and the old Friedman Buick building. The Cleveland Clinic would like to consolidate these as to 1 parcel. Mr. Murphy, I saw that finger.
No, okay. Just trying to get your attention. I just wanted to note that the mayor was not present at this meeting of the Planning Commission, but he did review it, and I spoke with him this morning, and he said to indicate to council that he is in favor of granting this request to consolidate.
Are there, Mrs. Tressi?
Is it, Mr. Murphy, the 2 medical buildings and the old Friedman Buick and that parking lot, is that all one?
It's my understanding it's the entire parking lot plus the old Friedman Buick and then the 2 medical buildings
Yes.
which
Yes.
are there. It's those 3 parcels.
Yes.
So it's from the driveway into the back of Golden Gate down to
To Gates Mills?
the Gates Mills
Place.
Tower.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Balstria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes?
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes,
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution 2021-79 has now been approved. Moving to 2021-80, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2021-80, a resolution authorizing the mayor to purchase 6 structural firefighter coats and pants and 22 pairs of firefighting boots for the Division of Fire and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi.
yes,
Mr. Balstria.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes?
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Tressi, second by Mr. DeJohn. This resolution pertains to the purchase of firefighter coats and boots for the fire department, $23,099.05. This was approved, an approved grant from FEMA, and this will be purchased from a company called the Firehouse. Are there any questions from council or Chief Elliott? Anything you need to add? Okay. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Teresi.
yes,
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes?
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Balstria.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. This resolution has been approved. Thank you. Moving to ordinances 2021-29, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2021-29, an ordinance providing consent to the Ohio Director of Transportation to complete the various transportation projects in the city of Mayfield Heights listed in the ordinance and declaring an emergency. And it's the Psalm Center Road resurfacing. Second reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. DeJohn, second by Mrs. Tressi. Roll call on the motion to
Mr.
suspend.
Mr. Balstria.
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi.
yes,
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes?
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mr. DeJohn. This ordinance refers to the Psalm Center resurfacing project from Cedar Road to Mayfield Road. Are there any questions? Mr. Murphy?
Yes, I also spoke to the mayor about this one this morning, and he asked me to encourage council, if all of the questions regarding the funding have been answered, to approve this so that the project can move forward.
Okay. Are there any further questions from council? Mr. DeJohn?
Didn't we get a memo late today from Mrs. Fagan about this?
we did. I shared an email that Dan had sent out answering your questions.
Yeah, can you just, I haven't had a chance to see that, so
I haven't either, I'm
the match on this was at 80-20?
The city's portion would be 20% of the resurfacing, which is estimated at approximately $143,000. 20% of the construction engineering estimate, which is about 11,400, and there may be an additional cost of 50,000 to 75,000 for items that aren't included that ODOT will not cover. All of that would be included in the 2022 budget.
Thank you. Road program, right?
Are there any further questions? Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balstria?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, this ordinance has been adopted. Ordinance number 2021-32, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance 2021-32, an ordinance providing for the organization of certain administrative departments and fixing the salaries and other benefits of certain officers and employees therein and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
I need a motion to place this on second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Teresi, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call to place this on second reading.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balstria?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. So this ordinance will be on second reading. There is a finance meeting set for this Friday to go over this ordinance. Thank you. All right. We will move to motions, beginning with motion B.
B is a motion to approve the site plan for an electronic charging station at Eastgate Shopping Center.
Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mr. Mano. We heard from Mr. Hoffman, the owner of Eastgate Shopping Center, at the last council meeting, giving us updates as to what he'd like to do with his center. He is requesting for an electronic charging station located at Eastgate Shopping Center. I did have a question for Mr. Jameson.
Yes.
Is this the first charging station that you, in the city, electronic, that you know of?
That I'm aware of, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, any members
Well,
of,
you know, I'll take that back. Parker has some electric charging
that's
stations
what I was thinking when we did that walkthrough, I thought I saw them.
for
there.
vehicles, yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
All right, thank you. Mr. Balestria.
Just so council's aware, I think they got the plans this evening. I received the planning commission, the large plans for the planning commission, but I think council was copied on the smaller one. So it's going to be closer to Som Center. If you kind of visualize where Michael's is, that driveway, if you go down that driveway just to the left, I think they're going to take 7 parking spaces and turn 4 of those into the charging stations, just so everybody has an idea of the location. So it'll be closer to Som.
Okay, thank you. All right, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balstria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, this motion has been approved. Motion C, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a motion to approve the site plan for a new identification sign for the Mayfield Garden Apartments, 1585, 1587 Mallard Drive.
Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Tressi, second by Mrs. Sabetta. This motion is for a new identification sign for the current Maitland Towers. The new name will be Mayfield Garden Apartments, which is located on Mallard Drive. Mr. DeJohn.
Yes, I went and took a look at it, and I guess it's going to connect up the wall with a new sign. And they also said in the minutes something about lighting. There was a discussion on lighting, but it didn't say what the discussion was regarding the lighting. So I can't really approve something like this without having further information on it. So I would like to make a motion to table it for now until we can talk with the planning commission. Now, the mayor was not at that meeting, and neither was Mr. Balestria.
I did do,
Mr.
I could add a little bit. I did some research, since I came back, and you probably didn't see this particular drawing that was presented to the
James.
planning commission, and I can show that to the rest of the council. Did you get that?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
Mr.
it's-
Jameson?
It's attached to the wall, existing wall.
Would you like to come address the council, please?
This wall is there. They're just putting the sign on the top of the wall.
Can't see the wall.
Good evening, Mike Bizjack with Sesco Imaging. Sign, what we're proposing to do is remove the existing wood sign that sits out in front. There is an existing, if you look in the photo that's on the drawing, there's an existing ground light. That ground light will be reused, that ground light structure will be reused. We're gonna put a double head on it, be 40-watt equivalent for each head. That was the question on the lighting. There was concern about whether or not it would have some impact on neighboring properties. I assured the planning commission that if it did, there would be some adjustments made by the property owner. Their intention is not to have a negative impact on the adjoining property owners, and there is a ground light there, has been there for years.
And that wall that's there now, was there a sign on it at one time? And the
No,
sign
there was
came-
not, no, there was not.
And approximately how wide is that wall from left to right?
18 feet.
That's 18 feet. And you need a sign that large in a residential area?
The sign is actually a little small, it's actually right at the limitation for a monument sign. It's consistent with other apartment buildings as you lead up to this property. It is a single-phase sign.
Oh, here.
We're within the area requirements.
Okay, thank you. It's just, the sign is a large sign, 18-foot wide from left to right. And the height of it?
Mr. Jameson?
Mrs. Chairman, signs for apartment houses, replacement signs for apartment houses have to be approved by the planning commission and council. There is no criteria for it. There is none. It's based on planning and council's view of it. It always has been.
Thank you for that, Mr. Jameson. And like I'm saying, the mayor and Mr. Balestria were not at this meeting, so I can't vote for it, and I would recommend either tabling it or, really give consideration, this council
There's been
really.
a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call on the motion to table.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi,
Yes?
Mr. Balstria,
No.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
No.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. So we will now table this. Table. Okay, so, go ahead. You look like you want to say something, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused at this process. So, do we go back to planning commission, or?
No, planning commission approved it.
Planning Commission has approved it. Now council must, or has recommended approval, let me mention that. Now council must give the final approval, and council has determined tonight to table it. So it'll come back up again at the next council meeting.
It'll just give everyone a little bit more time to talk this through and figure this out. And we can bring it back up at the next meeting. Remove it from the table and vote on it.
Okay, were there any specific questions that I did not answer?
I don't know what, Mr. DeJohn.
Well, not questions, it's just the size of the sign, and, you're going from a sign that's been there for years and going to this big 18-foot sign. I really don't see the need for it. It's in a residential neighborhood. You have to look for the apartment building anyways. I just don't see the need for a sign that large. And maybe we should look at our sign ordinances for apartment buildings. But I remember approving a variance for a sign on the Marshall Towers when it changed names. So there is some type of sign ordinance out there, because they did ask for a variance. Mr. Jameson?
Yeah, I really don't know what you're referring to as far as that
Well,
goes.
their sign on their building, they asked for a variance
On
to
the-
make it
On the
larger.
building, it'd be a wall sign.
And they have a monument sign also.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're allowed to have a wall sign, you're allowed to have a monument sign.
You're saying,
But identification sign for the entire complex has always been approved by planning commission and council. There's no size requirements. I believe this is more to hear the missing planning commission members' feedback is what's holding you up, correct?
well, correct, but we already have one that would like to see it, is approving it, so, and the only other person we have is the mayor, so it's probably gonna pass anyways, because we need a majority vote. We need 4 people to overturn that.
Well, I'm just saying, this is how it's been and will continue to be unless you change the ordinance.
Well, we definitely should look at that and have some kind of legislation on the size of apartment building signs.
Councilman DeJohn, can I make one point? The sign area is consistent with the existing. Square footage.
Took a picture of it. Let me see if,
Well, the picture's over here.
I mean, it may be a few square foot difference, but we're talking about 5 square foot, 4 square foot, something like that. But it is consistent. Marshall, what is it, Copper Creek? What is the name of Marshall now?
Drake.
The Drake?
Drake.
Okay. Yeah, that's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of the Copper Tree and the Gates Mills, Gates Mills Towers. Both signs are far larger than this.
If you look at where it is, here's where it is, Bob. It's way over here.
Madam Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Here's the parking lot.
So the brick wall is existing, am I correct? From
Correct.
pillar to pillar?
Correct,
And the new white sign is going to sit just on top of that?
correct.
And is that sign illuminated itself, the white sign,
No, it's just ground lights.
just the ground lights?
Yeah, they're gonna trim back the probably install new landscaping a little lower.
So that you can see the wall?
So that, yes, so that, well, no, so that you can see the sign. If you look, that landscaping's extending up above that short
Right.
wall. So they're probably gonna trim that back a little bit so that it does not interfere with the lighting or the viewing, the identity of the property.
Thank you.
There is one of these walls flanking each side of the driveway. We're only looking to install a sign on one of them.
All right, well, so it is tabled. It'll give the council a little bit more time to drive around and see if they want this sign, okay? So if you can just, if you have any further questions for the applicant, you can contact him, call Mr. Jameson, and we'll bring it before us at the next council meeting.
When is the next council meeting?
Let me, the second, the
October
11th,
11th.
October 11th. There was the law director stated earlier that he would like for an executive session. Council will need to go into executive session to discuss pending and imminent litigation and also the appointment of a public official. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved?
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, second by Mrs. Tressi. Roll call on the motion to go into executive.
Mrs. Teresi,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes?
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
yes.
Mr. Balstria,
Yes?
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. It is now 8:35. We will be going into executive session. Thank you. session. It is 9:30 PM. Is there any new business from or comments from council?
Yes, Madam President.
Mr. DeJohn?
Well, we all know that the wall came down at Nissan, and they haven't put it back up yet. I went by there the other day, and I don't know. Shanisha, can we get this on the camera here? Is that possible, this photo
You
on
just
my
have to
phone?
You can go down there and zoom it in.
Open it up.
While Mr. DeJohn is walking, I also had a resident call me 2 or 3 times over the whole summer, upset about this wall.
I don't know if we can zoom in tight enough to really.
You, Bob, if you zoom it
Open
in.
it up more, can you?
And where is this at? Nissan, you said?
Yeah, at Nissan, what, Algiers?
This is at Nissan, and there's probably maybe, I don't know, 25, maybe 50 tires there, parked right next to the resident's front yard. Now, I understand it that Nissan wants to put a vinyl fence up there. I'm against a vinyl fence. I want that masonry wall put back up there. It protects that residence from all of the noise and everything that goes on in that dealership. So,
And
just
I've-
wanted to notify everyone of this. This is disgusting. When I saw this photo the other day, was this morning, when I picked my daughter up, who lives on that street, not too
Put that
far
back
from there.
up.
Your screen it would play.
Is that what he replaced the wall with? Put tires there?
They just piled tires there, and I
Where the
saw.
wall came down?
Pardon? Yeah, well, the wall,
Yeah, if you can go there.
just so we all know, the wall came down,
A long time ago,
Go
over
ahead. This is-
months. And one of the neighbors, has texted me a few times and said, when are they going to fix the wall? She reached out to the people at Nissan. No one's done anything. I reached out to Mr. Jameson, and he said, oh, it just came down in August. But it really came down long before August. So, yeah, he said he reached out to Nissan Corporate, and they want to come and get a variance
Oh, put a vinyl wall?
to put a vinyl wall instead of the masonry wall.
Masonry wall has to be, your budding
Yeah.
residential area, it has to be masonry.
Well, and the neighbors there are pretty upset because not only has the wall been down, but now they've stacked up those tires.
and I saw 2 people sitting on the curb right by that neighbor's yard, smoking tonight.
From the Nissan place? Ooh.
Didn't they come before us to tear down the building, the
They did, yeah. A long time
that
ago, they
down?
came before.
They
They've
never
never
tore
torn
it
that
down.
building down. The building in the back, remember?
they wanted to tear that down. They came before us to ask
Right.
about tearing it down, and we told them,
did.
go
Right.
ahead. They never tore it down.
No, they did not.
That-
You're right.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, a couple years, and we gave them the vote to tear it down. There's a little building in the back of Nissan, a little gray building, and they wanted to tear that down. I believe they wanted to tear it down, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe it was for additional parking.
Yes, for parking.
I was right, okay.
New
For
car
more
storage.
cars.
That's
Yeah.
what they were looking for.
Right.
Okay,
And
so
they
Ms.
never
This
did
Is that
it.
Nissan? I gotta go back there.
So, Mr. Murphy, can you help us look into this area? We're directed to the building department.
Yeah, it's really up to Mr. Jameson to make that
Okay.
decision.
Can you do me a favor and forward me that picture of the tires
And I'll forward you the
And then-
emails.
and the emails, and then I'll address it with Mr. Jameson tomorrow. As soon as you get me the stuff, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, there has to be some, I mean, those tires have to go now.
Okay.
They have to be moved.
Okay, I'll address it. Any further questions or comments?
I have one.
Mrs. Savetta?
I just want to thank the chief for the application and the approval of that fire grant. He,
Did a good job.
very good job.
Good, thank you. And I just have one comment. I wanted to follow up with the freeway barriers. It took me some time to get to the ODOT representative because he's new to the position. and he stated the same thing that we've heard, that those homes were not platted before the freeway went in. So I asked him to please send me an email with a full explanation. I also called our state representative, and I also put a call into what I thought was his boss, because I was upset, because I feel like that residential area is just as important as the other ones that are covered in our city. I also brought up to him the very expensive project that we're getting ready to do over by the other part of the freeway. And I told him I wanted to know if he can explain to me how Pepper Pike got their barriers, as well as Beechwood got their barriers for the playground over by the freeway over there. And he said that it was, he would try and get that information for me. But I wanted to let you know that I did call. He did return the phone call, and I got the same answer I got 3 or 4 years ago when I looked into it.
Yeah,
As
thank
well
you
as
for
everybody
that,
else.
But that's not the right answer.
Right. He
Because
told
we
me,
know that it's not the right answer because those houses, some of them are brand new.
right, but he said that they were not planned for prior to when they put the express lanes in. And they should have been plotted in a plan, and the city was going to build houses over there. So that was his answer. He said the only way that we could get barriers is if we came up with funding it ourselves.
No, the answer I got, because that Hidden Woods was supposed to be developed in 3 phases. And so the first phase was
Right.
the phase away from the freeway. When I spoke with ODOT, at that time when Hidden Woods was going in, they were putting up the barriers and say, you folks are far enough away from the freeway,
You don't
it's
need
not
them,
gonna
right.
affect you. So you're not in our plans to put the barriers up in this phase. Well, the phase is eventually gonna happen, right? And I said, well, we'll consider that when it happens. So at that time, Peg Engelsberger was the mayor, and Peg called him and says, oh, since you didn't say you definitely wanted that, we got put to the bottom of the list. And until it comes back up to the top in the projects, it'll probably never happen.
Maybe an idea would be to invite this gentleman
Just
to a
telling you
council
what
meeting.
we were told then.
He's brand new to his role in this position, and maybe he would come to a meeting, and we can ask him the questions that we need to ask him.
So Mr. Mano and I went down to District 12.
Oh, yeah, I remember you gave that
Yeah,
report a
the-
few years back.
2 of us went down. We met with the director, and we met with a couple of the engineers. And what they said is your home had to be built in before 1970, whatever, to get it. And that the people that purchased in Hidden Woods and purchased those lots knew that their backyards were going to be on the highway. And so if they had an issue purchasing those lots, they should have spoken to the developer who tore down all the trees and made their backyard wide open.
Right.
So he wouldn't do anything either. And then I hosted a party for the governor, and I did ask the governor, like, who to talk to in Columbus at that time to see if we could get any further with that. And I can call him again and ask the governor, because now there might be a new person in Columbus as well. As for what is done in Beechwood, quietly, it was done because of all of the Jewish schools and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
He didn't
for
wanna-
safety purposes, to have, because their children are outside, and Preston's Hope has, children that are challenged that could be outside, and that was kind of the reason a lot of that got done. Which, okay, I understand that, but anybody who knows me know I flipped out when I went to Macedonia and got off in Macedonia, and they put that wall up right next to the ramp coming down. I mean,
There's no
there's no
houses over there.
houses. I mean,
There's trees on
that
the other
area is
side, right.
pretty brand new, but
Yeah.
yet they have a wall
Right.
coming all the way down, so.
Yeah, I wasn't happy with his answer.
Getting done, really.
I was not happy with his answer either, so maybe we should
And he
invite
is
them
now.
out.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll come, but you can ask him. I'll try to reach out to
Yeah.
the governor.
Good. That would be good. All right, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mr. DeJohn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay? Thank you. It is now 9:40 and we are adjourned. Thank you.